Welcome to the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day is about appreciating every day as it comes, no matter what life throws at us. We hope that this podcast speaks to you, and if it does, please like, share, and comment. Now let's find out why today is our favorite day this week.
Well, welcome back, David.
Hey.
Today is my favorite day.
Yes, it is.
We're gonna talk about a topic here in a second. Why do I feel alone? But you got to talk about that T-shirt.
Oh yeah, we were coming back from a sabbatical. Actually, he was preaching on that day.
They just left because I was preaching.
Yeah. But we were coming home, and it was the weekend of Rebecca, our youngest daughter's first year death, and her homecoming with Jesus. And so we just said, we need to be alone. Tanya and I, when I say alone, Tanya and I needed to be together to work with God on our grief. And so we did that. But when we were coming back up, we went down south towards Fort Myers. As we were coming back up, we saw TJ Maxx, and let's stop there and just have some fun. You could get a bunch of stuff at TJ Maxx for barely anything. So we went there, and I'm going through the men's stuff, and I found this shirt. And this shirt, let me stand up. This shirt has a ninja cat on it, and it has a shark and like a Hawaiian flower, and then it has like a paw and some, I don't know what it is. And basically what it is just weird. My wife loved it. She just said, I don't want you to wear it on a Sunday morning, but you can wear it in your podcast, and you can wear it anywhere else you want. I went into an ice cream place that we go to. It's called Cold Stone. Hopefully we get Cold Stone to sponsor this eventually down the line. Yep. But Cold Stone I go to every week. And I do this for Tanya. I don't eat ice cream. So she always gets the same thing. She gets a Gotta Have It, which is the large, with coffee ice cream, 3 scoops of Heath Bar, and caramel. And I have to have them put a top on it, put in a bag with a spoon so I can bring it home to her. Yep, and they all laugh. And I've been doing this for years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Years. So it's funny that you go different places and they all know me there. I mean, they know me because of my wife, basically. And I did give the book Today's My Favorite Day to a number of people there, which actually one gentleman, his name is Mark, his mother experienced the death of a son. Oh. And his brother. And they were all going through the mourning process. And I gave them the book, my prayer book, and they went through it with us as a family. And then we experienced the death of a child a year later. And so they were praying for us as well. So it's kind of cool. We're all in the family of God, right? And we are. We help each other out through all that. But what we're asking today is, why do I feel alone?
Right.
And a lot of us do feel
even in a crowd when you go to get ice cream.
Yeah, you could be in a huge crowd of 500, 600,000, 2,000, 10,000 people. You go to a big concert and still, even though you have a lot of people there and you're not really alone, you can feel lonely.
Right.
And feel alone. But on the same time, then we'll talk about this. At the same time, we can be alone by ourselves and not feel lonely.
Right.
Now, why is that the case? That's going to be that's what we're
talking about today.
Yeah. And why would with all that's gone on after COVID, what were all the things that went on with COVID that we could talk about that has caused this loneliness to take place? Because I've talked to some 20, guys in their 20s, women in their 20s, and they said there's a real problem here.
There is. Well, the isolation, for one. Yeah. And we were forced, or we forced ourselves to separate.
Yeah.
And even families. They're talking now, there's a whole generation of children that don't know how to interact. They missed a whole year, almost 2, of that interaction, and so now they're in a shell.
There is that loneliness and aloneness, and don't know how to reach out.
Right.
The other side, the other generations was like my mom, who we got to see her all the time, and suddenly COVID hit, and we could only wave to her.
Right.
And I'm from another side of the country, so my family's trying to get connected with her. I'm on the phone with her all the time. I was constantly talking with her, but still, there was that loneliness. She just said, "I can't have this human connection." And even though she knew God was with her, she loved Jesus, and there was great times with the Lord. There's a reason why God created community.
Yes, absolutely.
We need each other.
We need each other, and that is one thing. If I notice, even in my business, with so much went to online. Yeah.
everything went on
Zoom
online.
conferences,
Everything.
prayer meet, everything is online. And so you don't have that.
Yeah, the connection.
And you can be in a meeting and not actually be a part. You know what I mean? You're sitting there, You're sitting there in your own space and yeah, you may be on camera, but people can, put on a lot of fronts when it comes to that kind of thing. And so the loneliness that creeps in, we always have to remember God is always with us.
And just thinking of a little bit of scripture, just a few things, Deuteronomy 31:6, when Moses was told by God, hey, I'm going to be with you, right? And he said, now go tell Joshua and Caleb, because they're going to go in the promised land, you're not, and tell them that I will never leave you nor forsake you. Gigantic. Joshua, then in the book of Joshua, at the beginning of it, Joshua 1:6-9, he talks literally about, I will be with you when you go in and take those battles. You will not be alone. And then one of the interesting Psalms is Psalm 13. Psalm 13, David is going, where are you?
Yes.
Why are you letting my enemies do this to me? It's a short psalm. You need to read it if you haven't read it before. Psalm 13. And he's just going, where are you? Why are you letting this happen? But at the end, he says, I'm going to trust you.
Right.
So he knew, even though he felt alone and felt like God maybe was not with him, he knew it. He already knew. That's why he was talking to God. The great thing is he's whining and complaining about, where are you? What's going on? But he's talking to God right now.
Yes.
And I feel myself like that.
Yes.
Because this whole COVID time really messed with my mind. I must admit, it was tough, and obviously suicide rate went skyrocketing
through the roof.
Attempts of suicide through the roof. Mental illness that people didn't really know they even were dealing with suddenly really popped up. It came to the forefront. Coping mechanisms skyrocketed. Porn, gambling, drugs, alcohol, food, all that stuff went out of control. That became our not feeling alone.
Yes. Yeah.
That supposedly filled that void, but really just destroyed all of us. It just didn't do well.
It filled a void emotionally, maybe physically. For a moment. And all this stuff is just that for a moment. But the spiritual side of it, we kind of neglected,
Well, not only that,
we didn't have the gathering.
Well, not only the spiritual side of connecting with God, by ourselves, but that, like you said, the gathering with other people, where 2 or 3 together, there I am in their name, right? So in my name. So it's the connection with other people that we need. And I believe that every human being struggles with some sort of mental issues, mental illness, because none of us are perfect. All of our bodies are having, so we may struggle with stress or struggle with anxiety or worry or that's all a mental, emotional struggle, right? That we all deal with.
Yes.
The extremes are different. And those who have a high extreme are going to need maybe medical help to get the serotonin and stuff in their head in a good place.
Everything balanced.
Get balanced. And then some of us just need to be able to talk with people. Tanya and I have been talking with folks because when Rebecca died, even though we're in a great church and we're in Celebrate Recovery, we have good family, we still felt alone. We felt alone, and we knew we weren't alone. And we were able to talk with people, but that's a small sorority, a small fraternity.
Yes.
That no one wants to be in.
Yes.
No one wants to be in it.
Yes.
And so we are joining a grief share group, and that starts next week for us. And so we're gonna get involved with that to try to work on that while we stay in our Celebrate Recovery, to continue to work on our hurts, habits, and hang-ups, which some of this is that, and that we're and also be in our prayer meetings and for her and I just to meet and pray together and talk together and read together.
Right. So do you think that one of the things that may create this feeling that we're alone is that when we have had a tragedy or we've had something not pleasant happen, whether a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one,
abuse when you were younger,
abuse when you were younger, do you think that we just get in our minds too much and forget that God is in control?
Well, of course we do. I mean, I know I do. I try to be my little G God. I try to control the situation so I can fake it till I make it kind of a deal. Well, no, you can't. I mean, even in AA, we kind of joke about that, that we fake it till we make it. But honestly, if that's where you're going, you're white knuckling it and it's not going to work. And that's in porn, drugs, alcohol, food, and gambling, any of that kind of stuff. You fake it till you make it. It's not going to work. That's a beginning point, but then we have to get who are we giving this to and who we're going to rely on. And so for me, I know that when I started feeling alone, when I was a teenager, especially, I went from being 5'2", about 130 pounds, to 5'10", 130 pounds. And I was just gangly, and I just felt like no one understood, and I did feel alone, even though I was in a great family, loving parents, great siblings, good friends. I felt alone, and I felt that no one really understood. When I went through and came out of high school, and I didn't go to college. I was one of the very few that didn't, because none of them in my family ever went to college. So it wasn't even a thought process that we're going to go. And I felt lost. Didn't know exactly. I was not a believer. Felt lost. I remember when I went through the process and in dating, and that dating relationship, one dating relationship just blew up, and I thought I was going to marry her. Felt alone again, right?
Right.
But that was different, because that time when that happened, I knew Jesus, I loved Jesus, and I went right to him. And by the way, I got connected. I was already connected with his family at that time. So I was able to have other people to have that community to hold on to. Prior to that, I just go into a dark place, or what I did is, I was working out 7 days a week, tearing my body apart morning and night. Yeah. And that doesn't help anything.
Doesn't help, no.
It's good to be in good shape, but it's not good to tear your body down.
Kind of overdo it a little bit.
Yeah. So,
and that's what we do when we feel lonely like that. We have a coping mechanism of some sort. And like you say, for you, it was the workouts. Yeah. But for other people, there's bad habits, bad things that they get into. And for me, when I struggled with that's when I got into so much trouble gambling.
Yep. There we go.
And it's just like, because it's me and the machine now. I'm doing good. You know, I don't have to talk to it. I'm in control. I can. Yep.
Not really though. You're putting money in and you're going, the machine's in control. But we think we're in control.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Just like the alcohol. I gotta numb myself.
Right.
But I'm doing it to myself, so I'm in control. No, you're not. The alcohol's
in control. Yeah.
And we do this when we get lonely and get alone and feel like there's no one around. And I think the big key, again, is going, if you are feeling alone, verses to go to, if you have a Bible on you, go to Psalm 13. Go to Joshua 1, 6 through 9. Go to Deuteronomy 31. Specifically look at verse 6. But read 31. And I think that you'll start seeing that God's saying, I'm with you the whole time. And if we could get that in our mind, when you go through cancer, both of us have.
Both of us.
And I could feel like a lonely place. But I never felt like I was totally alone. I knew God was with me. And there were moments where I went, I'm going to whine and complain. No, I'm alone. Then I went, wait a second. No, I'm not. I know who's with me. You're with me, Lord. And in the death of Rebecca, the first night, I got up, was downstairs around 3:00, couldn't sleep, and just wailing. But I was wailing to not to just say, oh, I'm wailing or I'm just crying. And I don't know what's happening, all this stuff. I was crying to the Lord going, please help me through this.
Yes.
Because I don't know how to make this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And, why is this happening? I don't know why you're in charge of it. And I went right through the today is my favorite day truths. That at least thank you, Lord, for letting me breathe. But I'm angry at you right now that you didn't let my daughter breathe.
Right. And it's okay to be angry at God.
And I went, Lord, I know that I am not alone. You are with me. I know that you love me, even though I don't get it right now, why this would be taken from me. You have a plan for me. I thought you had a plan for my daughter too. I've realized that he does have a plan for her, and it's a big plan. it wasn't the plan I wanted. God, you have a purpose for me. You say that. Mm-hmm. I know that to be true. Love God, love others. But right now I'm just hurting so much. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And I know you have a future for me. I'm going to see my daughter in heaven. She's there. I'll see her again. Mm-hmm. But I wailed that for days. And still not wail, but I cry over it because I say it every morning. And, but I know I'm not alone.
Right.
I'm just sad.
Right.
And that's okay to be in a sad place and and not to stay there, but it's okay to be in a sad place.
Well, you said something in there also that, it was not the plan that you had.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not what we wanted, what I wanted. And when that happens to us, we have a tendency to think that God just abandoned us.
We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Why is it so hard to pray?
Yeah.
Because we want God to do something. We want to move him.
We want him. Yeah.
Instead of God move me and move me closer to your will. And though I pray these things, and I know you're going to hear me, and I know you're going to answer. Now my responsibility is to listen and then change, move to what you want.
Right.
And I had to come to this place that God, this was my vision for my daughter, and now that's not happening. And you've got to move. I got to do something here. What happened? And he's been moving me to a place of, David, you still have work to do. Mm-hmm. You still have things to do, and your daughter's going to be a part of that. Your older daughter's going to be a part of that. Your grandkids are going to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. Your wife's going to be a part of it. This church is going to be a part of it. So, and you're going to be a part of it. And so I know that. So I just kind of go, okay, now I understand that. I'm moving forward, even though I don't know exactly what that is.
Right.
And I think that when we're lonely, we feel totally alone, so desperate that we want to do something to ourselves, hurt ourselves, isolate, all that kind of stuff. All I could say to you is don't do that, please. No. Yeah. I know that there are people that hurt you, and I know that you've been hurt. Get it. I've been there too, and still kind of in that place. You don't have to be alone. God's there for you. Our Lord Jesus Christ is there for you. He loves you. The Holy Spirit's there, and we know that. And our goal here is to give you some practical things to do. So what can we do practically in the midst of our stuff,
yeah,
to say, okay, why do I feel alone? That's a good question to ask. We need to answer it.
Right.
So why do we feel alone? Why do you feel alone at that moment?
Yeah, at that moment, it could be anything. It could be a loss. It could be you're reflecting on a loss. My parents. I get that way and your parents were great prayer warriors for you. Mine were the same way, and so sometimes you wonder, okay, is anybody praying for me? Am I alone in this now, God? And so things like that, the loss that happens, or get into argument with a loved one. There's all sorts of life circumstances that happen that we draw back. And this is the thing. We draw back and we draw into ourselves. And we isolate ourselves from all who would help us. And that's, you and I both know the value of having a sponsor, having a friend that when there's an issue or there's a problem, we can pick up the phone and we can text or we can call. Most of us text because texts are answered faster. Why does he want to talk to me? Right? And so, but even if you're not into something like Celebrate Recovery, or you're not really sure where you're at,
maybe not in a church at all.
Yeah, right.
And that's okay. We've been there, done that.
Yeah, both of us.
Yeah.
You have to have that person that you trust that you can reach out to and just talk and get connected. We're not meant to go through this alone.
No.
God recognized that immediately, that we're not meant to go through this alone.
But we may have somebody right now, and that may be you, that's watching this and going, okay, great. I have nobody. There's nobody in my life right now, right? And that may be true at this moment. That may be true. And I can't tell you how that feels. I don't know what it feels like in your situation. I know it feels to feel alone.
Yes.
And I know it feels to feel lonely, but I don't know your specific situation, how it feels. Neither of us know.
Right.
So right now, the key is going to be when I feel alone or lonely or by myself, why do I feel this way? It's because what I've done is pushed God over. This is what I do. I'm just telling you how I feel. I push the Lord over, and I try to do this thing on my own. I'm going to feel lonely.
Yes.
So my suggestion to anyone And he could take it from a guy who's lost a child, who's gone through cancer, who's gone through a lot of loss, and has felt alone and has felt self-confidence down at times. Is that it sounds really funny, but and simple. I say it all the time, which is gaze at God. What does that mean? Look at his character. Look at who he is, and say, I don't know much about you, but I know that it says that you hear me. And I know that you can heal my broken heart.
Yes.
And I know that you hear my prayers, even though I don't get it. And I'm just going to start talking to you. And then the next thing I would suggest is if you're watching a podcast like this and you're kind of interested in just the spiritual matters of things, look for a good Bible-believing church and a loving church and a church that would not run away from your hurts, but wouldn't, and what you're in right now, but wouldn't leave you there.
Right.
Last thing you need is be in a church that you're a flaming alcoholic, and the people in the church are going, you came in drunk. Yeah. And they go, oh, that's perfectly fine. We're great for that. No, you want people who are going to go, hey, we can get you help. Do you need help? Do you want help?
Right. Right.
Not to fix you, because they're not going to be able to do that, but they're there to say, we could pray for you. Do you need help to get to someplace? How do we get to help you? And you have to open yourself up.
Yes. That's the key. We have to open ourselves up to the help. We have to open ourselves up to God's healing power, and we have to open ourselves up one to another.
And that's courageous living.
Yes.
That's that idea of 2 Timothy 1:7. I'm trying to remember it here. That God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And he's given that to you. You can overcome this feeling of loneliness, but it takes a courageous step to go, I'm going to step out of my uncomfortable place, out of my comfort zone, and get into an uncomfortable place and start reaching out to people. And you're going to get hurt by people. It's going to happen. Yep. But we could talk about that. Why do I feel like I get hurt by people? We could even do that at a different time. Like that. Yeah. But right now it's about, why do I feel alone? It's because we push God aside.
Yes. That's the biggest.
And you need that relationship first, so the other relationships can be healthier. You'll learn what love really is, and then be able to express that love to other people.
Yep. That's right.
It's hard.
It is tough. Well, David, we're at the end of our time.
Yeah.
It's but if you are struggling in this alone, if you're feeling alone, and you haven't anybody to reach out to, don't hesitate to contact. Our contact information is in all of our podcasts. You can go through David's site or through my site, and we'll respond to you. So
we may say we could send a link. I'll grab the link to last week's service in our church.
Oh yeah, okay.
Even if you're in a church at a different place, but you want to watch it. Pastor Mark, one of our pastors here, talked on this subject, and I thought he did a good job. He was being honest with his own life. You may be encouraged by that. He hung around bikers, and there was a lot of stuff that he was involved with that got him to a place to understand that God was with him. He wasn't alone.
Yeah, so, I thought I did a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So. So we'll put that link out there for him
That's
too.
A good idea.
And I'll put that on at least the video link, and we can kind of go from there. All right.
So, all right. Today's my favorite day.
Go get a shirt
Live
like this.
intentionally, be blessed. Yes. Find yourself a wild shirt.
Yeah.
This has been Sam and Dave. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to TIMFD, Today is My Favorite Day. Views, comments, and opinions are those of the host and guest alone, and Dave and Sam are solely responsible for the content of this podcast. TIMFD is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Music is composed and performed by Chuck Fott. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed.